Hey, what's up everybody? This is Isaiah from Therapy Today, and today we are going through some scary and surprising mental health statistics compiled by the World Health Organization, by NAMI and the JED Foundation. And the purpose of this video is not to scare you about the state of mental health in this country and around the world, though sometimes it might sound really alarming and feel really prevalent. The purpose of this video is to use these numbers to raise awareness that mental health is a problem that cuts across all bands of the socioeconomic spectrum, across all different populations. Whatever category you might fall into does not make you immune from any concerns with mental health. And starting to recognize how common that can be is super important for us to start bringing awareness to the issues facing people that surround us every day, people that we interact with on a daily basis, as well as moving to a place where we can be kinder, more supportive of each other and of ourselves as we recognize the ways that mental health and mental illness affect people all around us. So to that end, for the duration of this month, May of 2024, Mental Health Awareness Month, I am encouraging all of my viewers, subscribers, followers on YouTube and on Instagram to give to NAMI, either the national organization or your local state NAMI organization, or any other mental health nonprofit that you want to give to, in order to encourage you to give to these organizations. If you give, just go ahead and DM me the receipt from your donation. You can DM the receipt to my Instagram, which will be linked below, or to my email address, which is on my YouTube profile. I don't need to know how much you gave, but the idea is to encourage all of us to give during this Mental Health Awareness Month, and you will be entered to win one of 3 great prizes at the end of the month. We are also doing weekly live streams with guided mindfulness meditations, as well as story sharing for anyone who wants to share their stories about mental health, whether you feel like you're just starting your journey in the middle of it or have overcome some of the struggles that you've faced in the past. More details about that are posted on the community tab every week, and really hope to see you all there. So with all that being said, let's talk about some of these statistics that can be very alarming. Let's start from the global stage, from the World Health Organization. According to the World Health Organization, 970 million people are impacted by mental disorders, of which anxiety and depression are the most common. 970 million people across the world. People who suffer from severe mental health disorders have a shorter lifespan by about 10 to 20 years compared to the population that does not struggle with a severe mental health disorder. And what I really want to pull from those numbers, first of all, that it is not as uncommon as we might think, but also that mental health is serious. It's not just about feeling bad for a couple of days or not feeling like yourself, though that's certainly part of it. It has real impacts on our overall health, and it shortens our lifespan through different things like suicidality, which is a symptom and a feature of many mental health disorders. There can be a severe economic impact both for the individual as well as for the community in days lost due to work, lost productivity, feelings of worthlessness, lack of motivation. All of those things can affect both how you go about your academic work and your actual employment work. Not to mention how this impacts families. When any one member of a family struggles with mental illness, everyone is affected. And so one of the features that we need to recognize with mental illness, that it goes beyond just the individual, but it really impacts the community and the family around them, in addition to negatively impacting their quality of life and other issues such as overall physical health and socioeconomic impacts. So let's transition over a little bit to seeing some numbers from NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness. These are statistics for the United States specifically. So according to NAMI, 1 in 5 adults suffered from mental health disorder in the past year. That is a lot. So if you think about any workplace gathering that you're in, maybe if you go to church or some other community-based organization, take a random group of the 5 people that are there. Statistically, 1 out of those 5 people has suffered from a mental health disorder in the past year. And that's really sobering to think about it. I know we talk about statistics, 1 in 5 or 20% might sound kind of nebulous, but if you really gather a group of 5 people, and for every group of 5 people, you could predict that 1 of them suffered from mental illness. That is a much more sobering thought. And this one surprised me and is really kind of scary. 50% of lifetime mental illness begins at age 14. That means if somebody is going to suffer from mental illness throughout the span of their life, 50% of the cases start at age 14. And 75% of those cases have begun by age 24. In the US, anxiety disorder is the most commonly diagnosed mental health disorder at 19.8%, and major depressive episodes are the second most common at 8.3%. So together that comprises 27-ish%, almost 30% of all mental health cases. In year 2021, only 47% of US adults receive treatment for mental illness. And the average delay between the onset of symptoms and receiving treatment is 11 years. And so what these facts tell me, again, mental illness is much more common than we might want to think or want to believe. What that also tells me is that early intervention is a must. You're talking about if someone's going to struggle with mental health throughout their lifetime, 75% of those people have begun that journey by the age of 24. And if we're waiting for those people to get sick before they get help, that leaves a huge gap for people to not be prepared when they start seeing these symptoms, whether it's their first depressive episode or whether it's their first panic attack or their first anxiety attack. On the whole, people are not prepared at age 14 to start coping with those kinds of changes and that kind of stress in their lives. So prevention efforts, education, and early intervention are super important, which also speaks to when we talk about there's a gap between the first onset of symptoms, an 11-year gap, and then they start getting treatment. If we intervene early, we have much better opportunity to have better outcomes and better quality of life for those people who are affected by mental illness. And so like we're talking about with kind of these early onsets of lifetime mental health struggles, let's talk about how our youth are affected. And these are statistics from the JED Foundation. According to the JED Foundation, 12.6 million young adults age 18 to 25 experienced mental health issues in the past year. That is a rate of 36.2%. That's higher than a third. So you're talking about 1 in every 3 young people aged 18 to 25 statistically has struggled with mental health in the past year. They said 19.5% of teens aged 12 to 17 experienced a major depressive episode in the past year. Again, that's at the 1 in 5 rate. And that's just for a major depressive episode, not counting any other mental health disorders. 42% of high schoolers reported feeling sad or hopeless in the past year. 36% of college students have been diagnosed with anxiety, or 30% with depression. And what you're talking about with that kind of language, that's only those who have been diagnosed, not all of those who are struggling with anxiety or depression. This one's really sad. Suicide is the second leading cause of death for young people ages 10 to 34. And 22% of high schoolers reported seriously considering suicide in the past year. 10% of high schoolers attempted suicide in the past year. And this is where it really hurts for me to say, but you're talking about 1 in every group of 10 high schoolers statistically has attempted suicide in the past year. That number is way too high. The JED Foundation further states that across almost all of these statistics, females, ethnic and sexual minorities are in greater danger or at greater risk from mental health and suicide. So for all these statistics, they always specify that this disproportionately affects gender minorities, sexual minorities, and ethnic minorities. And what this tells me is that young people are vulnerable and they are experiencing a lot of stress, a lot of different factors that contribute to these mental health problems. I don't know exactly what all those factors are, but the stats are showing that during this developmental time, from adolescence to young adulthood, there's a gap in treatment where people are falling into mental illness, suffering from mental health disorders, and are not getting the treatment that they need and are suffering greater harm in higher numbers because of it. And so one of the important things, especially about this month in particular, is that it's not just about the counselors stepping in, the therapists stepping in and being able to provide more services or training more therapists and counselors and other mental health professionals to be able to meet this need. That's absolutely important. But what's also important is having that conversation about mental health, to know that it is that common, and for people who are struggling silently or alone to not feel as vulnerable, to not feel as isolated in their struggle, for people to share stories, for people to know that they're not alone, that there are people who care about them, and that there are people who support them, even just to know that you're not the only person going through that kind of struggle and journey. And that's why things like sharing stories, breaking down the stigma around mental health and mental illness, as well as community support and prevention efforts, those are so important. Like we were talking about, a lot of these mental health disorders showing up in early adolescence and young adulthood, that there's an opportunity for education and prevention efforts to make a huge impact and really provide people with some of the tools to be able to cope, to be able to seek help, and to be able to heal and recover as they struggle with mental illness. And again, that's why we are using this month as an opportunity to really get the word out about fundraising. That's why I'm offering this giveaway. Again, send a receipt of your donation either to NAMI or to another mental health nonprofit organization. DM that to me at my Instagram, and you'll be entered into the giveaway that'll be decided at the end of the month. And like I said, this is really important because mental health really affects everyone. This is something that we all need to be aware of, for ourselves, for our families, and for our communities. So thank you so much for watching this video. Please do like and subscribe, consider donating, and like I said, trying to incentivize us donating, especially during this month. So check the links in the description below for how to do that, and I will see you all next time.